trusted, nonpartisan political organization that has been active for 100 years. While the League never endorses a candidate or party, the League is directly involved in shaping important issues to keep our community strong. As a former League member, I'm very grateful to have had the opportunity to contribute in different ways that have an impact on state, local, and national issues. If you're interested in learning how to have that kind of impact, I encourage you to pick up League information tonight and consider joining. And an event like this would not be possible without a lot of people behind the scenes, and I want to thank everyone from the Voter Services team of volunteers who made this possible. We also have volunteers as greeters when you walked in who have cards for you to submit questions, and many of you have done that. And then they will come and collect them as we go throughout if you have other questions. Our greeters are Lucina Moses, Love Adu, and Isabella Alcala. And the names of our question sorters are Deborah Votz, Jan Urban, and Jennifer Trafford. All of the questions were submitted by you, and we'll try our best to get as many as possible. But we have a big stack, so I don't think we're going to get to all of them. If we do not get to a question that was submitted, please know that we are not censoring them in any way. I am just randomly shuffling them and picking them. And we're not protecting the candidates from tough questions, but we do want to remove any duplicates and anything that's a personal attack and give the candidates time to answer as many questions as we possibly can. Since the questions have been submitted by the audience, the candidates have obviously not seen them in advance. We have timekeepers, and our timekeepers are Ed Smith and Chris Hauser, right there. And to make sure what happens, we do have the two timekeepers so that the candidates will know how much time remains for a given answer. And I will please ask the candidates to contain their answers in the given time frame. When you see the stop sign, you can finish your sentence, but not a paragraph. And I really, 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 really hope I do not have to ask you to stop, but I will if necessary. Our goal for tonight is to allow each candidate to communicate their platform and vision for representing the city of Fullerton and allow the community to ask questions which have been submitted. So, before the event, we had the candidates draw slots for the order of answering, and we will rotate that order. So we will start here for the first question, go down there, and then we'll start with number 2 for the second question, and then we'll rotate. I also want to thank each of the candidates for being here tonight, as well as running for office. And I would like to introduce the candidates. First, we have Jan Flory. Then we have Linda Whitaker. You can see all these names. Then we have Matthew Truxaw, Fred Jung, Jamie Valencia, Nicholas Dunlap, and Kitty Armiel. So those are our candidates for tonight. And I would like to explain our ground rules. First of all, candidates, I want to remind you to turn your mics off in front of you, off and on. When you're speaking, they can be on, but when you finish, they should be off, because otherwise people can hear what you're muttering under their breath. Not that they would ever do that. I ask you all to please make sure you have turned off all of your electronic devices. We do not want to have any interruptions by phones. And here's our format. Each candidate is going to make a 2-minute opening statement, and then we'll take questions from the audience with each candidate answering the question and then again taking them in rotating order. You will each have 1 minute to answer the question. Our timekeepers will let you know how much time you have left with a 30-second time and then stop paddles. And then everybody has a 1-minute closing statement. In order to make sure that we have enough time to answer as many questions as possible and to not interrupt the candidates, we please ask you to hold your applause. The forum will close at 7:30. The FPPC guidelines regarding recording candidate forums is that candidates' forums cannot be edited in any way and must be shown in their entirety. So those are the ground rules for tonight. So we will begin with our 2-minute opening statements, and we will begin with Jan.
Alrighty ho. I made the mistake of coming to City Council last December, and what I saw was disturbing to me. One of the chief reasons that I'm running again is because I want to bring some stability and civility to our council. Even though we have different candidates representing different districts and we have different council members, representing specific districts. Virtually every vote that the council makes affects all of us, whether you're from District 5 or District 1 or wherever. And by the same token, each of the districts has bragging rights or pride of territory or whatever in their council person, and I think that we should stick to our rotation, our mayoral rotation. The second reason that I decided to run was the sad state of affairs with our roads. Out of 35 different jurisdictions in this county, we are number 31. The road project in my neighborhood started at the end of September 2023. It was to be 22. It was to be completed by spring or early summer the following year. It just got finished in July. It was over 2 years. And the third reason has to do with public safety. I had a rock thrown through my window at 2 o'clock in the morning a year ago last October. It was absolutely terrifying, and I know that we should have more sworn cops on duty right now, so.
Oh, excuse me. Okay, thank you.
I know City Hall pretty well. For more than 20 years, I've followed our city councils during some really difficult times. We need to move Fullerton forward, break out of the current budget problems by insisting upon voting for balanced, properly prioritized budgets. I believe in lower taxes, less regulation, a better, more efficient and open government for you, the people of Fullerton. A well-functioning, vibrant city requires ongoing balanced development and consistent, fair treatment for all of its diverse residents, businesses, and visitors. By Orange County and California standards, Fullerton is a mature, built-out, densely populated area. During most of Fullerton's history, a good balance of land use blessed us with local employment opportunities, ample and diverse commerce, a real downtown area, abundant parks, trails, and open space. Fullerton agriculture past is nearly gone, but its attractiveness is a place where we love to live and raise a family. Efforts to accommodate growth should not become a race to overdevelop and urbanize Fullerton to such a degree that those things which have attracted us here are no more. Do we want a progress which diminishes our affection and affinity for the city? I don't think so. City council members must listen to the concerns of residents. As such, I think it's important that we adhere to policies which improve the quality of our city and its amenities. As your representative on Fullerton City Council, I will fight tax increases, defend property rights, aid small businesses, and reject needless spending. I am prepared to help take us to a safer and better Fullerton. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Matt Truxaw. I'm running in District 1, which is the northwest corner of Fullerton. And I'm running because I care about this city. My family has roots that go back more than a century in Fullerton. My grandparents moved here in 1920 when most of the roads weren't paved, and not that they're very paved these days, but and my mom was born in the old Fullerton Hospital. I was born in St. Jude's Hospital. I raised my kid here, sent him through Fullerton Public Schools from kindergarten through high school, and I care about the city. I went to Cal State Fullerton, got a degree in economics, and then moved on into the business world. And now I'm coming back to try to help out the city. I have those roots that go back, again, more than a century. In fact, just a century ago last June, 1924, my grandfather, Dan O'Hanlon, went to a park in Fullerton where they were having a Ku Klux Klan rally. And the Ku Klux Klan was very popular in those days in Orange County, but he didn't go to support him, he went to challenge him. And he shouted down that speaker, called him a liar multiple times. The crowd started gathering and threatening him to tar and feather him and beat him. So they did the obvious thing. They arrested him for disturbing the peace. And later that night, they burned a cross on his lawn. One of the things in his eulogy that they pointed out, they called him an aggressive force for good. And I aspire to have that legacy of being an aggressive force for good for the city and the people of Fullerton. So I'm Matt Truxaw. If you want to learn more about me, you can go to my website, www.matt4fullerton.com. I appreciate your support. I look forward to your questions, and I thank you all for coming here, the league for putting it on, and all of you for being involved. So thank you.
All right, Fred?
Good evening, everyone. I am the current District 1 representative on City Council. I am proud to have been the endorsed candidate of our police officers, of our firefighters, and of our municipal employees. Proven leadership is important in this role to stop the retention and recruitment bleeding that this city has had over many, many years. That we're losing experienced talent to other jurisdictions. And with the help of this council, we've been able to put a stopgap in place that has kept a lot of our talent and is attracting more. And I'd like to continue our progress forward and look forward to earning your vote accordingly. Thank you.
Jamie?
Hi, good evening. My name's Jamie Valencia. I am a current candidate for District 4 for City Council. To introduce myself, I'm a bachelor's prepared registered nurse of 18 years. I currently work at UCLA in the pediatric ICU and Orange County as a school nurse there. I am an active participant in my child's youth sports, and I'm a mother. I'm also current City Commissioner for Infrastructure and Natural Resources for City of Fullerton and a County Commissioner for the Citizen Advisory Group for Orange County Transportation Authority. I'm ready to take my experience and my advocacy as a nurse to city level and help change our city's infrastructure, rebalance our budget, ensure public safety, and just really turn this city into a more revitalized, modern city that we know and we love. Thank you.
Nicholas?
Good evening. First, we'd like to thank the League of Women's Voters for hosting this event. My name is Nick Dunlap. I'm a third-generation Fullerton resident, born and raised. I'm now raising a fourth generation here as well, so we're heavily invested in the community. As my wife and I are both very active in a number of different sports and school activities with our two daughters, and they go to public schools here in Fullerton as well. But I think really what compelled me to run for office 4 years ago is the same thing that's really encouraging me to run for re-election, and that is, I think our city has long been disserved by people who focus on politics and climbing the political ladder instead of focusing on the problems and the issues facing our city. And so I really want to be the type of leader for our city who will put politics aside and not just serve a district, but serve our city as a whole. And I think, if reelected, my focus will be to continue to grow our economy, to serve and support our community, to plan for tomorrow, but to push for results today. I think one of the things that's important to note is that over the past 4 years, we talk a lot about our roads and streets. Over the past 4 years, we've spent over $50 million. We've invested over $50 million into our roads and streets, which is a bigger investment than any other council in over 2 decades. And we've not only been able to do that, but we've been able to restore the city's credit rating and to enhance the city's financial reserves while also putting more police officers on the street. So I think if you vote for Nick Dunlap for re-election is to continue on the same trajectory. Thank you.
I'd really appreciate it if you wouldn't make any comments at all. Again, we don't want to interrupt at all. Kitty, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, my name is Kitty Jaramillo, and I am a lifelong resident of Fullerton, and I was raised in the Maple community. After marrying my husband Jimmy, who was a U.S. Army veteran, we were able to make our home in District 4, Southwest Fullerton. We have 2 grown children who attended Fullerton schools, as well as my husband and I. I worked for the city of Fullerton for 17 years and continued my public service for 16 more years with the city of Santa Ana until my retirement. I have served on several city committees and commissions throughout the years, as well as continuing my community service to Meals on Wheels and the American Legion, Post 277. As most of you know, District 4 has been neglected for as long as Whitaker has been our representative. Being a civil servant, throughout my career showed me the good, the bad, and the ugly sides of city government. I will do my best to only do good for our district. And hopefully someday we can also enjoy nice parks, streets, and sidewalks too, just like the north side. I will always advocate for residents and city employees who are the backbone of this city. I'm proud to be endorsed by Congressman Lou Correa and also the National Nurses Union. Many thanks to the League and to you for coming out tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you all for those introductions. We'll now start with our questions. And just a reminder that you have 1 minute for the question, and we'll start with number 1, and the next question will start with number 2. So the first question, and again, randomly shuffled, what have been your experiences to qualify you for this position? Jan?
I thought we were gonna rotate after the opening statement.
We'll rotate after the questions, is my
Okay.
understanding.
All
Sorry
right.
about that.
If my time might start again then.
Yeah, so no, we'll start right now. So again, the question for everyone is, what have been your experiences to qualify you for this position? 1 minute.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, number one, I've been on the city council in Fullerton for 14 years. I was a family law attorney also for 35 years. I came into the law practice kind of late and obtained my bar degree at age 41 and always had my business in downtown Fullerton or up on, originally at Bassett State College. I believe that my negotiation skills developed through getting warring husband, warring wife to agree served me in really good stead as a city council member. For the first 8 years that I served on the council, I was the only Democrat. And so I had to forge alliances with my colleagues in order to get anything done. And my very best friends were some of the most conservative on the council, but we always found a way to make it work.
Thank you. Again, Linda?
I kind of think I've said a little bit of my experience for 20 years. Before that, watching county and state issues. But my husband's a city council member right now, and I have been his treasurer, his campaign manager, his everything. I finally came in because the city manager at the time would not allow someone to assist from like a college or something, any of the council members. So basically I said, well, they can't stop me. I'm his wife. I'm not somebody outside. So I've gotten to know a lot. I've helped with a lot of meetings and appointments, and it's been a real education to see how things work from the inside out. One thing that Bruce and I have always believed in is we work for the people. You're the ones that vote. You're the ones that put us in office. So at that point, if you're not number one to us, then who is? Not me.
Thank you. Matt?
So I don't have a lot of political experience. I'm not a politician. I spent the last several decades in the business world, IT, management, and other things, from being a low-life code monkey up to being a director in a business. But in there, I learned how to run projects, how to meet budgets, how to understand prioritization and figure out what's the most important thing to do first and what needs to, maybe has to let slide. And I think I can bring that. I've done a lot of different industries over the years, from telephony to mortgage to real estate information to medical. I spent the last 10 years or so working for a company that does medical benefit exams for veterans to get them the benefits they need to get people, some of them off the streets, and so that they can survive. So thank you.
Greg?
Prior to joining city council, was a small businessman, blessed to be very successful. I've managed payroll, employees, legal liability. I think those things are very important experience-wise to enter the role. This is not a on-the-job experience type of career if you were to make it one. It's certainly decisions that have wide-scale, long-term ramifications, not only for the folks that live in the city, but our neighboring cities as well. You know, I'm proud of the fact that I sit on very many regional committees that are voted on by my peers throughout the county, not only in the city, but my peers throughout the county. And I represent Fullerton not only on these committees, but as sitting vice chair or chair of these committees. So I have the respect of those of my peers in this nonpartisan office, not only in our city, but our county as well. And I'm proud of the fact that Governor Newsom appointed me to the second oldest board in the state of California. Thank you.
Jamie?
Hi, everyone. So being a nurse, I am an advocate for my patients, and I really want to take that forward to our city. So I have lots of experience listening to people over the years of being a nurse. As a mother, as a working mother, I really have a lot of priorities that our city really needs in their hearts and desires, and I want to make that broad scale for our whole city. I am a first responder, so I do have the endorsements of police and fire. They understand where I come from. I understand where they come from. I know what our city workers are looking for in a city. I've experienced being on my committees and learning how the city works, our budget works, and I know what we really need to do to get the city moving in the right direction. They've done a great job thus far on council. I'm excited to work with them. I'm excited to work together as a good cohesive unit on council, and I feel that I can bring that forward and really work together as a team to make sure our city's thoughts and desires are really sought after. So thank you.
So aside from my experience as a business owner, working with budgets, making payroll, dealing with financing and things of that nature, I think I started out actually prior to being on the city council. I served on the planning commission. And that was a really interesting experience because we juggled a number of different projects at the time. It was before a lot of some of the more recent controversial changes to state legislation. And so we were dealing with projects like the College Town Plan and some other ones that came forward. Actually, that was my first planning commission meeting, which was kind of like trial by fire. But I think the important thing that I've learned across whether it's business or community service here, it's the importance of taking the time to meet with people, to listen to people, to understand their concerns. And I think that's definitely something that's really translatable for me. You kind of have to mesh or mold that customer service side of things to community service as well, making sure that you're there, you're present, engaged, and listening to help solve problems.
I left my mic on. Well, working for I worked for 7 years for the police department when I first started with the city. So I was on the inside there. I was there at the inception of the DARE program. I was the one reading all the books to educate the officers on if they should suggest that book to parents at the schools, because all the officers I work with were in their early 20s. So they were young, no children, didn't know what they were doing really with working with all the parents at all our elementary schools. So that's what I did in the beginning. And then I came over here to code enforcement, and I was working in planning and building. And then I started learning about structures and buildings and plans and all the things that go into building anything in your city, what's required, what's not allowed. And that was what I enforced all these years, were all things that were not allowed or things you needed to get permits for. Maybe that was their only problem, was that they didn't get permits. And that's what being on the inside helped me with.
All right, we have our next question. How would you contribute to protecting democracy, secure elections, and voting? And we'll start with Linda.
Great question. A little difficult at city council level, more of a county, state issue, but still a good question. Protecting people in every way, from fire, police, government that maybe has gone a little off kilter, trying to straighten out that government. How to do it? You have to get a team. I mean, there's 5 people up here during a city council meeting, and you have to vote to the best of your ability, the best of your knowledge, and try to come up with the best solution for the people of Fullerton. I have really not much else to say about that issue because it goes deeper than that and it would take a long time. Thank you.
Can you repeat the question?
How would you contribute to protecting democracy, secure elections, and voting?
Honestly, I think from a voting perspective, I think you got to trust the election workers and give them the resources they need to do their job. Again, I agree with you. I think at a city council level, there's only so much you can do. I think a lot of the attacks on the voting and things are really overblown. For the most part, our elections have been very secure and there hasn't been issues. I think we need to keep an eye on things and make sure things are monitored. But honestly, I don't see that as a major problem, at least today. And I think sometimes when city councils and governments get involved trying to protect democracy, they actually restrict voting rights and things, which can be even worse.
Greg?
You know, when I was young and my parents and I immigrated from Korea to America, one of the things that my father wanted to be was a citizen. When I asked him why this was so important to him, he said voting. Voting mattered. He's voted in every single election since he took that oath of citizenship, even when he had cancer, even when I thought he was going to die. He took it that seriously. And we happen to live in a great state where it's universal mail-in ballot. All of you should receive that ballot first or second week of October. You should think about what it means to be a citizen of this country, and I advocate that you vote accordingly. That said, we have a remarkable registrar of voters here in Orange County. Voter fraud here in this county is non-existent practically. And the rights of every voter are very protected by not only our county, our state, but also this council. So I encourage you to vote more so than anything else. Amplify your voice, make sure you're heard. Thank you.
Hello. I can piggyback on some of that. It is not a city ordinance. We have no control over the regulations of it, our city level. It's a state and federal. But I do want to encourage the young people out there to get out and vote, to have a voice. Every opinion matters. Fullerton has a mean age of around 35, and it's really important that we get people out there in the future generations to know what our city needs, wants, and get a voice out there. So I think it would be really helpful to provide more encouragement to the whole city to get out there and vote and know what you're voting for and have a voice. So I think that's the most important thing.
Nick?
Yeah, this is not, I don't think this is a Fullerton issue, really. As I see it, Neil Kelly, the former registrar of voters, I know was an award-winning, ran an award-winning department. And I think that was a testament to sort of the strengths and stability within his department. With respect to Fullerton, there's really not a whole lot that we can do as a city to help. Although I do know that with the expansion of some of the in-person voting centers, we have gone to great lengths to make sure that there are ample facilities that are accessible to those with disabilities, so that they can access these facilities to vote openly as well.
Well, I've been a poll worker for about 15 years, and the last they called me this time to work also, but I was in the middle of a campaign, so I said I don't think so. But the last time I worked was right here at the parking lot during COVID, and we were outside collecting ballots as they would drive by. You could drive by and drop them off, and learning all the system of how you register them in. I worked inside also, and it's so secure. I don't even understand the rhetoric regarding voting practices, how they're so out of line. I didn't see none of that here when I've been working the polls in all these years. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our next question. What are your top 3 priorities? And we'll start with Matt.
Jen didn't answer.
Oh, I'm sorry. Whoops. Thank you for shouting it out. Jan, I'm sorry, I apologize.
Well, this is a fun question. I am going to parrot what Fred Chung and Nick Dunlap and Kitty said about our former Registrar of Voters, Neil Kelly, who I had the privilege of doing the tour with him, and he was so on the ball. And the incidence of fraud in Orange County, and in fact in all of California and most of the states, is infinitesimal. And it has been blown out of proportion by people who are trying to game the system, in my opinion. The fact that we have so many ways of voting, mail-in voting, the safe deposit box, or on-site where you can actually go and fill out a ballot. I've never had any doubts whatsoever about the integrity of our voting systems.
All right, now we're on to the next question. What are your top 3 priorities? And we will start with Matt.
This is a tough one because there's a lot of things out there, and I think there'll probably be a lot of overlap with it. I mean, there's some obvious things like getting the roads in place, working with the homeless situation, and other things. But I think really that my top priority, my very top priority, is actually getting the voice of the people back involved into the city government. I think there's too much where people are only listening to their big donors and they're not listening to their constituents. Like the Walk of Wilter on Wilshire has been overwhelmingly supported by the citizens, and the city council has some big donors who apparently don't want it, and they're trying to get that reversed. Now, maybe enough people will speak up that that won't happen, but that's the type of thing that I'm concerned about. I want to hear the voice of the people and listen to the voice of the people and then act based on the voice of the people. Thank you.
Fred?
First priority is repairing and rebuilding our infrastructure. We live in one of the oldest cities in Orange County, and we have water pipes that oftentimes we dig up that are made of clay. These are things that require an enormous amount of capital investment. M2 dollars, gas tax dollars are just not enough to get to our roads. So our council's done a good job in allocating general fund money for one of the first times in our city's history to address these crumbling infrastructure issues. But we have so much more to do, as well as enhancing public safety. Back when I think Madam Flory was on council initially, there were 160 police officers. There's 120 now. So naturally, our city government has shrunk just by a course of evolution, I suppose. And lastly, we have to increase economic development. We have to enhance and mainstream and streamline the way that we do things to make sure businesses come to Fullerton. Thank you.
Jamie?
Hello. My top goals would include revitalizing our infrastructure, our streets, and working on providing clean water to the whole city. I am the committee member on infrastructure and natural resources, so I know where we're at fiscally for that, and I know where we're at for future, and I just would like to help move that forward. In order to do that, we probably have to adjust our budget. We have to look at that. The next part would be enhance public safety as a whole city. Fire, police, or city workers, and really help everybody feel supported so that we can retain our employees and not lose them to other cities. That's really important to me, to retain and recognize our city workers. I'd also want to work on ways to make things more affordable, but collaborating with other organizations within our city that are currently working on helping families and people in need. So that would be my biggest supports, is to put that with them.
All right, so I think, like some of what we heard, my 3 priorities: we got to fix our roads and streets. We need to grow our economy, and we do that by bringing in quality retail and commercial users to our city that are interested in doing business here, that haven't been contacted but want to be in Fullerton. And then I think it's also continuing to support public safety and addressing the homelessness concerns that are so important here in the community. Those are my 3 priorities.
Kitty?
Oh, well, when I'm canvassing right now the city, and my priorities were streets, of course. Everybody's priorities are streets right now in Fullerton. Then it was homelessness, just tackling that issue. It's an ongoing issue, and affordable housing. So after all of those things, that's what we've kind of been pushing. But now, when I'm canvassing, what I'm hearing from residents out there now about District 4 is, what are we gonna do with all the vacant commercial buildings in our city, in District 4? What are we gonna do? We've had some there that have been vacant for 25 years, Zaki Farms. And now we have 4 more, and then we're gonna have Stater Brothers pretty soon. So that's become, it's kind of evolved into that being the top concern of people who live in District 4. So that's really what I need to look at, but again, it's economic development, but it's reaching out also.
Jen?
Well, I had mentioned two of my concerns. One, the stability, to restore stability and civility on our city council, because what I have witnessed over the Union Pacific Trail issue is that the council was not listening to the public, and 6 miserable hearings later, finally, the Union Pacific Trail was approved unanimously, but there was delay after delay that was needless. Roads, I've mentioned that already, were number 31 out of 35 in the county. 13 million of federal COVID funds were allocated to repair of our infrastructure, and affordable housing is another one. This city has no plan for affordable housing, for building additional affordable housing. One of the reasons it does not is our housing element, which is an important part of the general plan, is 2 years out of date. And it is for that reason that we cannot avail ourselves of certain programs available at the city or at the state level.
Linda?
Okay. Pretty much everything has been, for 14 years that Bruce has been on council, because we did canvass the neighborhoods, and Fullerton is huge. Before districts, we canvassed Fullerton. And you knock on doors, and the first thing they say is the streets. I've got flat tires, I've got this. So your infrastructure, it starts with the pipes, because you do the pipes, you do the streets. It'll last at least 10 years, and probably longer for your pipes. The other is homeless issues, and we need to address the safety features involved. We need to incorporate the oldest with the newest methods of treating the homeless. And cannabis dispensaries. Nobody's mentioned that, but they are a real big concern to mamas and papas walking their babies to school, and they're afraid that their children are going to have to be walking by these all the time, and it's a fear. It's their fear. It's not my fear because I have no children. But thank you.
Okay, this next question is a long question, so I'll try to read it slowly. Are you in favor of requiring developers of housing, multifamily, apartments, townhouses, etc., to have a required number of units for low-income people? And then it says, and increase what is being done now. And we're going to start with Fred.
No, I think strong-arming private property owners to do what you feel is best personally, or what your worldview is, not the best way to govern. Quite frankly, there are other ways to incentivize private property owners and developers who have now invested millions upon millions of their dollars to build these units to be able to have affordable housing. The way you can do that is let them know that there are state incentives that the state of California has for density bonuses, where they can recoup some of that by having affordability at a high number. You could do that on a practical level as well, by advocating what your views are and saying to the developer with no uncertainty, this is what I'd like. In order for me to look fondly upon your project, I'd like a higher number of XYZ affordability. And you could do that, and that's, to me, a more egalitarian way of doing it than strong-arming a developer. Thank you.
Jamie?
Hello. No, I don't believe that I should put restrictions on developers on that matter. I feel that developers are here to help develop our city and make growth that will help in turn bring in revenue for our city. So I would like to work as a team and make sure that we are collaborating and that we're seeing all the eyes and ears of the city and what their needs are.
Bottom line, housing affordability is simple economics. It's all supply and demand driven. And the reality is that, inclusionary housing, there's actually been studies that have shown that I think that forcing, developers to build or include affordable housing units as part of their developments have actually discouraged development, which is not what we want to see if we're actually going to address these concerns, once and for all. So I would not support these mandates.
Kitty?
Well, I guess I disagree with almost everybody, except Jen. No, I think that's what we need to do, because that's how we've gotten in the hole we're in. That's how we don't have enough affordable housing here, because we've done nothing. We haven't even met the standards for the state and the feds regarding affordable housing. So it's more of the same. No, that doesn't help anything. Let's go ahead and talk to these developers. When they come in, they want to develop. So if we ask them for 15% instead of 5 or 10, I don't think that's going to kill them. And if they want to build that big development that they're going to make millions of dollars on, then we should try it. I mean, we aren't going to know if it can be done until we try it. But it hasn't been tried here because it's not what the majority of our council wants. But I think that's something that we need to try.
Jen?
I was reading in the paper yesterday that Gavin Newsom said that affordable housing is the original sin in the state of California, and to some degree I think that that is realistic. This city was sued in the mid-90s. We were under a consent decree because we found out that we were not setting aside 15% of our redevelopment funds for affordable housing, which was a state mandate. I currently serve on the board of East Chapman Villas, which is one of the first affordable developments in the city of Fullerton. I've been doing that for 6 years, and it is a very, very popular development. And none of the neighbors even know that it's an affordable development. It is that well done. But there is a 3-year waiting list, and people, they just have to have a place to be. There are ways to induce.
Jen?
Okay, yeah.
Linda?
It's a great thing, affordable housing, right? Not so much. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. A lot of people aren't happy with affordable housing that I know and come to me and say, oh, this is like they're punishing us. So look at both sides of every issue. Make up your minds yourselves. But I'm not really inclined to force a business owner or a property owner to mandate him to say, here, you're going to have this much affordable housing. Where's that money going to come from? It's going to come from the other people living in the area, because they're going to make up for it. Thanks.
Matt?
Okay, so I do have a degree in economics, so I understand supply and demand, and I can empathize with Nick's position. But one of the things we have in Orange County as a whole, and Fullerton in particular, is an artificial limit, because we're running out of land. So there's never going to be enough supply naturally to meet all of the demand. So I also am not a big in favor of requiring something, but I definitely think there should be incentives and costs for people who want to build and don't want to supply the extra affordable housing. There should be some additional costs that they have to entail, or some additional incentives beyond a nudge, nudge, wink, wink, I'll support your project if you do what I want. Thank you.
Okay. Our next question is a short one. Will you allow marijuana dispensaries in Fullerton? And we start with Jamie.
No. 1, they're illegal in our city limits. 2, I don't want the blight and the crime that it can bring in there. 3, we can't really tax it, so our city will go downhill. I want to put in businesses that will actually make our city thrive and survive in a healthy manner. I would like to knock on the doors of those big businesses that want to come in here and put in stores in where we lost all those businesses. 99-cent store is gone. I'd like a Trader Joe's, a Whole Foods, something that is going to revitalize our community, not bring it down, not put it in the dumps. I'm sorry, but I am not for it. I would like to have our city grow in a positive, healthier, more modern, revitalizing way. Thank you.
No. Also, not every decision that we make is dollars and cents. And the simple fact of the matter, as a parent, I don't think it's, having to have these discussions much too early because you drive by a sign advertising retail cannabis. These aren't things that we should have to explain to a 7 or 9-year-old kid, just because somebody is advertising, their retail business that they've got established. So it's not something I support now and not something I would ever support in our city.
Kitty?
Well, first, before we can even tackle bringing in or approving legal dispensaries here in Fullerton, we need to get rid of the illegal dispensaries that we have currently. We had 10, 13, I think was the last count I got. I think they've had a task force trying to get rid of them, but it's like whack-a-mole. You get rid of one, it pops up someplace else in the city. That's what happens all the time. Right now, I believe, I got a count the other day, we're at 7. So, we have a big problem. It's costing the city a lot of money. Those are the shops that you need to be afraid of. They're unregulated. They don't have any holes on who walks in there. And we don't know what they're putting in the stuff they sell. So a legal dispensary does all of that. But right now, we can't even think about that because we got to get rid of what's burning up our city money right now. Thank you.
Janet?
When I was on last on council, I voted and supported legal dispensaries. I've come to change my mind about that, and a lot of it has to do with the newspaper articles I have read that say that, number one, the benefit in taxes is not what was advertised to begin with. I am concerned, as is Kitty, about the unregulation of cannabis that is illegally sold in the city. And Santa Ana had a really good experience with, once they approved a couple of dispensaries, their illegal dispensaries were gone. But that hasn't been a consistent result in all of the cities that have legalized cannabis sales. So I'm still on the fence about that.
Linda?
Good question. I really think that we do have illegal dispensaries in Fullerton. I know that, everybody knows that. And first of all, we have to teach them a lesson and say, goodbye, you're not in our city. It's not legal. Also, I read an article yesterday about why dispensaries are closing in California. And we're number 1 in sales, right now. It says the abrupt closures come as California's cannabis industry struggles to survive, with massive distributors going belly up, tax revenues sinking, and dispensaries closing across the state. The shuttered High Times dispensaries leave hundreds of thousands of dollars of unpaid bills in their wakes. That was April 4th of 2024. I just can't see where the value is there when they can buy marijuana online. Thank you.
Matt?
Thank you. So I guess we all read different articles, because the article I read was Santa Ana in their first 4 years of legal dispensaries brought in $50 million in tax revenue for the city of Santa Ana. Now we're less than half the size, so we wouldn't bring in that much. And also, I think it's a good point, there's all these illegal dispensaries, and the easiest way to get rid of them is to make it so it's not profitable by having well-regulated positions where we have them in locations that make sense, not in front of schools and things. As far as telling your kids, we've got how many, 40 or 50 bars in downtown Fullerton, how many liquor stores? You gotta tell your kids about that. I admit, I used to smoke pot, I used to drink, I don't do either of them these days. But in my day, I would much rather hang around with a guy who was smoking too much pot than someone who was drinking too much, because they're a lot less dangerous. So I'm in favor of it in a well-regulated manner.
Fred?
That regulation that Madam Flory voted for, I voted with the majority of my council members to repeal that ordinance, and I'm proud of that. I would not support it as a father of 5. We're going to be an education city that Fullerton proposes itself to be. I don't know that selling cannabis retail in our city and being an education city run parallel on the same tracks. Additionally, there is nothing that shows outside of anecdotal evidence that legalized cannabis sales de-incentivize the illegal market. In fact, ask Los Angeles, Bellflower, and Long Beach, and they will tell you it's only enhanced the legal market because now there's a benchmark for pricing and they just undercut it in the illegal market. So I'm not for it, wasn't then, still I'm not, won't be in the future. Thank you.
All right, our next question, I hope this is clear. Do you support keeping Walk on Wilshire open? Why or why not? And we'll start with Nick.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because I recused myself from it simply because my dad and his business partners owned the Villa del Sol property and they bought that in the early 90s. So I've recused myself from it. So I could answer and I could irritate a lot of people, but I don't know that that's the best thing to do. You know, I'm confident that the council will make the right decision. That'll keep. I do think there's an opportunity for a win-win here, and I think that they can do that to help the community out.
Well, I just think that I've been to the council meetings, I've seen all the support for Walk on Wilshire, and I've seen Walk on Wilshire a million times. I've been there a few times. And it is lovely. It's lovely to sit out there and eat and talk and have an ice cream and whatever. And I think that little piece of Walk on Wilshire is beautiful. And if all the businesses or majority of the businesses are happy with that, residents are rallying for it, the support is there, why not? I don't understand what the roadblock is there, but I know it's something that's gonna come back because this majority council is known for kicking that can down the road and then not listening to the citizens of Fullerton. So I don't know where this is gonna go when it comes back. I'm just glad I'm not up there right at that time anyway, in October when it comes back. But, you know, I don't see nothing wrong with it. Majority of the businesses I hear want it, so there you go.
Okay, Jan?
We have 298 miles of road in the city of Fullerton. Can't we just have half of a football field length for pedestrian uses? Is that too much to ask? And it's also a great companion to the farmer's market. And it just feeds a lot of different kinds of activities. So I wholeheartedly support the continued pedestrian dining experience of Walk on Wilshire.
Linda?
When the idea first came to council and I looked at Bruce and we really kind of had liked the idea in the beginning before it was Walk on Wilshire, thinking that there must be a street in Fullerton we could close down, park full-time, whatever, and use it as a outdoor dining. We love al fresco dining. We're in Australia and outside was just beautiful. I mean, they fill their sidewalks, they're so wide with the people that are eating, and every restaurant has it. And you have to worm your way through the audience there, the people there. So it's fun. But Walk on Wilshire looks nice. They keep it up. I would have to talk to the owners myself of every business in that area and say, what do you think? You know, because I'm not going to take anybody else's word for it because there's too many opinions on this. So people in Fullerton like it, but how many? Thanks.
Okay, if you go to Santa Barbara, they have State Street, which is blocks and blocks and blocks. It's closed down, becomes pedestrian bicycle walkway, and it's become a destination. People come from all over to go there, and then they come have dinner and they walk up and down to different shops, and it's just increased the business flow there. Boise, Idaho has an 8th Street promenade, similar sort of situation where they've closed down several blocks. We have really half a block. I'd like to, clean it up a little, get a little more landscaping and thing, and look for opportunities for more of those types of spaces rather than less. We don't need cars whipping through Fullerton at 40 miles an hour and not stopping. We want people to stop, linger, and enjoy the place, and then wander up the street to that little shop and get a new shirt, or over down there and Maybe get a tattoo, I don't know, I don't want that, but some people might. Thank you.
Fred?
You know, we have one of the best downtowns in Orange County. Orange County Register, many other travel sites say it's so. You know, I'm in favor of closing down all of downtown for these macro events that we do that are community events that bring us together so we can enjoy fraternity and sorority amongst one another. Events like First Night, 4th of July, we should have more of these events that bring us all communally together rather than half a block on Wilshire. I was in favor of this during the pandemic because it was a necessary lifeline for businesses that were struggling. But the pandemic is over. That's a declaration from the federal government. And I'm not in favor, as a small business owner, of government putting their finger on the scale, or in this case, the foot on the scale, for a certain amount of businesses and not all of them. Thank you.
Jamie?
Hi, the concept is great, but not there. We need the thoroughfare for emergency vehicles to get through the city, first of all. I'd love to do bigger and better festivities. I grew up in Mammoth Lakes. We had festivals all the time. They brought in revenue all the time. We had Jazz Festival, we had a Shakespeare Festival, Wine Festival, and I really feel like the community involvement is here. We just have to make it in a better place. So I'm not knocking the community aspect that Wacom Wilshire has and the camaraderie it has, but it just is the wrong place. We will find another place, I'm sure of it, and I will do that while I'm on council. And canvassing, it's really important out there. I hear the families say they want more family activities, and I will so wholeheartedly go forward and make sure that we can get that for our community. Thank you.
Okay. The next question is, would you vote for an ordinance to make rotation of the mayor a mandatory policy? We'll start with Kitty.
Of course I would, because when they originally talked about that, I think I was at that council meeting when they discussed all that. It was when we had almost a full council that were good people. Equality was important to them. Reasonable and kindness was important to them. And all of a sudden, we can't go on your honor anymore. Now they bounce it back and forth between our three council majority. How ridiculous is that? I go to the Y about 3 times a week, and 2 ladies talked to me there that I didn't even know. They go, Kitty, you're involved with the city, aren't you? I go, yes. And they asked me about that council meeting they saw when they bounced the mayorship back. And they wanted to know if that was legal. And I go, legal but unethical.
I don't know that I would support that, because what if you got a real whack job on the council and then you couldn't do that? I mean, part of it has to do with respect for your colleagues, and that, I think, has been missing on this council. I think the council majority has been dismissive and disrespectful of the public, city staff, and the minority council members, and it reads loud and clear. I don't like that, and I like the fact that there is a policy. But to actually create an ordinance that would force the council to accept a person who shouldn't be mayor, I don't think I would go that far.
It's an interesting thing. Remember, there's 2 sides to every story. And the other side, I'm not here to tell you. But if you want to ask the council members why they've done what they've done. Jan's right. You got some nut job out there. You don't want them to be center place and make your meetings last till 2 in the morning. Although I don't think we've ever had a nut job on council. I think we've been pretty lucky. People are better in their choices of choosing council members, which is good. But yeah, it's a matter of everything isn't what it appears on the surface. So don't judge a book by its cover, and be fair. There's 2 sides to every story. Thanks.
Matt?
So maybe I'm the nut job. No, I don't like over-regulating things, so I wouldn't support an ordinance but I do think it was really disturbing the way it worked out this last time. I think if you have a process that's in place, unless there's an overriding reason why to not follow that process, you should follow the process. And maybe I'm wrong, maybe there's some secret, double secret probation thing I don't know about, but I didn't see that in this case, and I think it was wrong. So I wouldn't do it at a regulation, but I do think this last choice was wrong. Nothing against you, Nick. I think you're doing a reasonably decent job as mayor.
Okay, Fred?
No, I would not support that. Mayor and mayor pro tem are honorary titles. You are a representative of our city, but it doesn't entitle you to anything more outside of an office no one uses. You know, it's not a participation trophy, and it shouldn't be. You should be able to earn the respect of your peers. That's not a hard bar to hurdle. You should be able to work within the confines of your council. Let's say there is somebody who is crazy and just so far off the spectrum. You still have to work with that person. That person represents a district. That person is a vote on council. And if you can't do that because you're so entrenched in your echo chamber, then you have no business representing our city as mayor and mayor pro tem. Thank you.
Hi, mayor and mayor pro tem are earned titles. When I'm out there with my child canvassing in the wagon and I'm running for city council, he says mayor. I said, no, honey, we gotta earn that title. We have to have the respect of our council members and the respect of our city to get that title. It's not a participation award. It is something that holds our city accountable, and we represent the city as being mayor and mayor pro tem. So no, I don't think it should be a rotation. It should be an earned spot.
And Nick?
I do not support the rotation.
Okay. All right, our next question is, again, a little bit of a long one. Would you vote to require by ordinance an independent redistricting committee for future district redistricting? And we will start with Jan.
Well, I like the new districts, and I think we should keep them for a while. An independent redistricting committee, I could support that. If each one of the council members were able to appoint a person to that redistricting committee, I think that would be fair, so long as they were reviewing public input.
Well, first of all, I'm not crazy about districts, mainly because they aren't really upholding what they were envisioned. Ahmad's district is highly Hispanic, and he's not Hispanic. So you can't really make the voters vote for a person because they're in a district. The whole city, we vote, as council members, they vote on the whole city. They don't vote on just a district. And you need to work together because this is one city. So it was a good idea, but I'm not sure it's really working the way everyone wanted it to work. Thanks.
Matt?
I like the idea of an independent committee somehow doing the districting. I recall when they first were doing the redistricting, how it was drawn and like one little arm came out just to be able to pick up an incumbent so they could be in the district. I don't think that one actually passed because it was so blatant. So I think having some independent process to do that makes sense. But I agree with Jan. I think they're in pretty good shape right now. It does, and honestly, I think saying, oh, Hispanics shouldn't vote for someone who's not Hispanic is just wrong. So I think it makes sense to have people in different areas. And voting for someone who lives with you and understands the area makes sense. But it doesn't matter what race, color, whatever religion you are, as long as you're here to support the people of Fullerton. Thank you.
Fred?
I voted for the current district map. I'm proud of that vote. Appointing a member to an independent redistricting commission would not make it independent. That's what we did the last time around. But we are a representative government, and as such, the voters vote us in place to represent their values and interests. So I would not be in favor of an independent redistricting commission. I think what we have now works just fine. The map tells it. So thank you.
Jamie?
I really like my district. I like the borders of it. I like where we are. We're a lot of families in that district. I feel like I do a great job representing my district as being a working mother in that community. I feel that I really like my district. Thank you.
Nick?
I supported the current map and I supported the process. I think, one thing that I found telling was during this process, we had a series of public hearings, and the consultant who was running the process for the city basically said, we put on 5 meetings for the city of Anaheim, right? A city that's, more than twice as big as our city here. They said that we had more people at each meeting than the entire city of Anaheim had combined at all 5 of their meetings. And so I think that speaks to the strength of the civic engagement and the public involvement in this process, and I'm perfectly content with how things were handled.
And Kitty?
Well, I was on that districting committee, as a matter of fact. The way it was handled was crummy. It should have been just one representative for each council member, but it wasn't. They had 7 or 9 representatives, so it was just me and Jody, 2 women, with all men who all wanted the same thing. So you can imagine who they were supported by. But I gotta say, I do like the way our districts are drawn out now, because it's very simple for people to understand our borders. Now that I'm out canvassing, they like that it's very clean. But I didn't like the ugliness of how it all came about. It could have been done much better, and it should be only 5. Each council member should only have 1 person to be put on that committee, if that's the way they go.
Could I ask for a point of order right now? It was my understanding that the forum was to be from 6 to 7, and then from 7 to 7:30, we could go out and, that's what,
No, the forum ends at 7:30.
and then there's a half hour after that for,
Is the answer yes? What would? 7:30 to 8 o'clock is a candidate meet and greet, but the forum goes until 7:30.
okay.
And we'll do questions until about 7:20, because then you'll each have a minute for your statement, so we have time maybe for a couple
All
of
right,
questions.
I apologize for the interruption.
Okay. The next question, we'll start with Linda. Besides raising taxes, how do you plan to address the impending budget shortfalls?
Okay, no taxes. You already pay enough taxes. You pay taxes on Social Security, which you've already paid taxes on. Doesn't make sense. What do you do when you have a shortfall in your own home? You budget. You take the budget and you say, wow, I need to cut my budget. Cities need to do the same thing. It needs to be a realistic, common sense, everyday process for a city to cut the budget. And we don't mean make people suffer. We don't mean firing everybody. It's just a matter of common sense. Thanks.
So the 2 biggest revenue draws of the city are the sales tax of people coming here and buying things, and then property tax for people who own properties here. So I think one of the ways to improve that is things like the Walk in Wilshire. Make it a draw where people will come and spend their money. People coming from outside of Fullerton coming spending their money here to get additional revenue. But I also agree with what Linda said. I think at some point you got to make your bills. I personally hate debt. I paid every debt I've ever had off early, from my mortgage to my car. And I'm happy to say right now, other than the credit card I pay off every month, I'm debt free, and I would like our city to be that way too. But you gotta prioritize, you gotta figure out what you're gonna spend on, and then what you can do to get additional revenue. So sales tax, and maybe making some things easier to build some additional things so we can increase our property tax basis as well. And I'm out of time, so thank you.
All right, Fred?
Well, revenue generation is probably the key thing if you're not going to increase the sales tax. Again, I'm not predisposed to being against the sales tax increase, but let's talk about revenue generation for a minute. I think for us, we have to, as a municipal government, streamline a lot of our process, from business permits to building. A lot of these developers, small business owners, time is money to them. And if you've been a small business owner before, you know the commitment you make, hundreds of thousands of dollars of your own money and capital to have these businesses. Every day that we delay something or have another process where not only is the permit or the license or the inspection costing them more and more, we are just inadvertently taxing these business owners out of commission. So we've got to do a better job. If we do that, Fullerton will be known as business friendly, and you'll have more businesses come, and thus you increase your revenue accordingly. Thank you.
Jamie?
Can you repeat the question, just one more?
Besides raising taxes, how do you plan to address the impending budget shortfalls?
Okay, so increase revenue. To increase revenue, we need to bring people in. To bring people in, we need to have a draw. So it's all the same things that we're all talking about, and I think we're on consensus with that. We need to revitalize our city. We need to clean up the old malls, strip malls that don't have any businesses in them. Bring businesses in, help businesses grow, help their permits, help what we can do as a city level to get these economic developments in place so that we can grow as a city.
Nick?
So I said it before and I'll say it again because I think it's the single biggest thing we can do. We need to grow our economy. And the reality is we've got over $2.5 billion, that's $1 billion in investments going on, taking place in our city right now. Residential, retail, commercial, and industrial development projects that are coming online in the next few years. And obviously, once those projects are delivered, we'll see a boon to the property tax revenue and also the sales tax revenue that will be generated, and we'll see new jobs in our city as well. But we need to continue to be innovative. We obviously have the airport, and that's something I think we're trying to figure out ways to harness the new technology and developing technology. We've sat down recently with groups like Wisk and Boeing to figure out some of their last mile, flight solutions that they're going to be offering that are essentially like an Uber, basically an Uber for airports, if you will, that would be able to get you from Fullerton Airport to LAX. So there's some really exciting things. Those are, I think, on the revenue side, things that we should do to position our city to succeed. Obviously, we need to also look at expenses, figure out ways that we can adjust, our spending, continue to invest in streamlining online platforms.
Okay, Kitty?
Yeah, I think the big thing is economics. We need to do some more economic development. We need to get even 2 or 3 full-time employees to work economics, because when we lost redevelopment, the redevelopment agencies, all the cities lost them, that all the economic development went out of the cities. And Fullerton has never caught up. And I'll be honest, it makes me jealous. I don't want to tax, however, it hurts me every time I go into the city of La Habra or the city of Plasencia, because we were always ranked above La Habra and Plasencia, always, all these years that I've lived here. And now, those 2 cities look better than our city. And it's because they put in a half a cent or a cent tax. So I know nobody wants that, but unless we kick up our our economic team here at Fullerton, because that's where we need to invest some money with the city employees, economic development.
And Jen?
People are shocked to learn that of the sales tax that is charged in the city of Fullerton, 7.75%, the city only gets 1 cent of that sales tax out of every dollar. For your property tax dollars, the city gets a tad under 15 cents for every dollar. And a recent poll indicated that Fullerton residents might be agreeable to a 1%, maybe a 1.25% increase in the sales tax if it were for special needs, such as rebuilding the roads. I think that it's high time that Prop 13 be looked at. I know that it is the third rail of politics, and any politician that mentions it is probably going to get the boot. But the fact of the matter is that there are corporations that are hiding underneath the auspices of Prop 13 to the detriment of every single one of us in here.
Our next question is, and we'll start with Matt,
Do you support initiating rent controls for low-income seniors, disabled, and the disadvantaged? Starting with Matt.
I have really mixed feelings on rent control because have been a landlord and I don't like the idea of someone saying this is what you can charge. But again, I think we need to somehow make incentives for people to make it okay to have lower rents. And I do think there needs to be some control against really abusive landlords who just, the whole Rancho La Paz, where people were put out of their homes that they lived in for decades because a new owner came in and just started ridiculously raising their rents by huge amounts. So I got mixed feelings on it. I don't think, generally speaking, rent control is a great idea, but I do think you need to watch out for abuses and control those. Thank you.
Fred?
Well, you have to increase and find ways to increase affordability, but rent control is not the answer. I would oppose that because when you establish rent controls in a municipality, it often does exactly the opposite of what you expect. It doesn't increase development, it decreases it because developers are, I'm sorry to say this, but they have a bottom line that they have to meet. And oftentimes when municipalities overstep their boundaries and start establishing rent controls within the municipality, these developments come to a halt. So no, I'm all for development in our city. Thank you.
Jamie?
I'm not for rent control. I think we want growth and revitalization and just new. I'm so sorry, you guys. I just want our city to grow. I don't want to stay stagnant. I just want it to be able to have options. And I think if we put rent control in there, it will eliminate all those options.
Nick?
First of all, there's already statewide rent control through AB 1482, which is a cap on rent increases at CPI plus 5%. So I don't believe that the city should interfere with that and do anything more extreme. Additionally, I think, and I would encourage anyone who believes that rent control has merit to go review any of the economic studies that have been published out of Cal Berkeley, Stanford, or some of the other esteemed institutions who have published studies on the effects of rent control. What they'll tell you is that they've done nothing to help with housing affordability, and it's only encouraged disinvestment in those communities. Thank you.
Well, I think if we had more affordable housing here, if we met the requirements that were put upon the city of Fullerton, and we weren't so far behind, we probably wouldn't even have to be talking about rent control here. So I think that's what we need to really look at is our affordable housing program and get with it. I mean, I left here in '98, and we had just gotten in trouble, like Jan brought it up, with the state regarding our affordable housing. So, no, I think if we had good affordable housing enough, we wouldn't need to look at a rent control issue.
Jan?
I agree with Mayor Dunlap about we have existing state legislation that puts a cap on rental, and I think that was to deal with the predatory investors such as Mr. Saunders and the Rancho La Paz situation. And I like the cap idea as opposed to flat rent control because I think it is detrimental at the end of the day.
And Linda?
I think everything's pretty much been said on this. I'm not for rent control. Too much regulation on businesses do drive them out of the city. They'll go someplace else where they don't have to deal with that. And like Jan said, what Nick said, rent control, AB 1482, is it? It's already on the books. Do we need more? I mean, you want to take the law to where we have so many laws, we don't know what laws are. So I don't think so. We need to just kind of back up a little bit. People will do what they need to do for the right reasons if you let them.
Okay, well, let's do one last question and then we'll have our closing statements and we may go a couple of minutes over, but I think we'd like one more question. I'm gonna try to read all of this. Are you going to have forums and town halls, gatherings to keep you and other constituents informed and involved in what you care about? And we will start with Fred.
You know, I serve currently with a council member who is about as earnest as they come. She sits in our council chamber and waits every Thursday for constituents to come and address her with all manner of needs. From, I assume, and hopefully she doesn't get this, lost cat, to anything to, you know, trash pickup, missed trash pickup, and what they feel about Walk on Wilshire. She's been extraordinary that way, and our current mayor's done the same, where he's taken City Hall on the road and done a very good job engaging with the public. I suppose we could always do more, and I certainly support that. And I find that transparency in terms of voter engagement, residential engagement, business engagement, these things only help our democracy, it only helps our city government. Thank you.
Jamie?
Yes, I agree with more communication is better. I want to have an open door policy where residents and citizens throughout the whole city can reach out to me and bring me their loves, their hates, their concerns, and their hatreds to me, so we can work together to build our city.
Nick?
Be careful with the hatred, because that's real. I actually got one of those emails today, so, but no, I mean, all jokes aside, you know, that's something we've really tried to do, because that's what it's all about. I mean, we're here to serve at the end of the day, and you might disagree with a view, or you might disagree with a vote, but I think it's ultimately, it's important to be available and accessible, and oftentimes I find myself, you know, whether it's calling to set up a meeting or a meeting, you know, always taking the time to engage with residents. That's what it's all about. So I would absolutely continue that.
Okay.
What was the question again?
The question is, are you going to have forums and town halls and gatherings to keep you and your constituents informed and involved in what you care about?
Well, you know, that has always been my pet peeve. The city manager left already, but I know I've mentioned it at one of the council meetings. That Fullerton has never been good about informing the public about anything. You know, it seems like only a few people know, because I don't know why in this age of technology that everybody can't know what's going on all the time and what's happening here at City Hall. So that's always been my pet peeve. So I hope I'm not like that. Of course, I'm retired. So of course I can set up days for meeting everybody, and I don't know about gatherings. I don't know about that. That sounds like a party to me. But anything else? Oh yeah, I would be there. You know, I mean, that's part of this job, and I understand that, and I would be more than happy to meet with anybody, even if they're mean. It doesn't matter.
Jan?
During the 14 years that I served on city council, it was always a surprise to me how few citizens would ever pick up the phone and call me. And my phone number was always available, as was my email address, and it would continue to be that way. I did not have a city council email and a city council phone. So I met with people at Denny's and IHOP, and I put on about 20 pounds, but I make myself available. And I had my office on Wilshire for about 16 years, 141 West Wilshire Avenue, and I would have people just drop in and sit down and talk. Half the time it was the beat cop, the downtown beat cop, but anyway, I made myself available.
Linda?
Real easy. Bruce and I started a talk around town, walk around town. We went to Laguna Lake, we were at the Hunt Library, we were here at City Hall. So people could come and say, hey, I have a question, or I have a problem. And to this day, because of those meetings, it was once a month, Bruce still gets phone calls about, hey, I live not in your district, but could you help me? Because they know that he's there, he'll listen, and he'll do what he can. You can't always solve everyone's problems, but you can do the best you can. So yes, definitely.
Matt?
So I think it's great to be available, but I think one of the problems with Fullerton generally is too many people wait to be available and wait. You know, and I think what Shana's doing is great. I thought that the idea of office hours where people can come in is an awesome way. So if someone has something, they can do things or can come in and talk. And I would support that. But I'd also support actively communicating out to the citizens. I've been doing that on my little Facebook page as I can. As I come across something, I'll say, hey, here's something that's coming up, or here's something else that I'm gonna be at, or I expect to do those, and if I'm elected, then I think it would be, hey, here's some of the key things that happened at yesterday's city council meeting that you might be interested in. And I think pushing that information out is as important as waiting for people to come to us. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so we are ready for closing statements, and I think we'll start with, in order of the questions, so the next person who would be the first to answer the question would be Jamie, so we'll start with you with your closing statement. I'm sorry, yeah, because Fred was before, so we'll start with Jamie and then go around.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you everyone for coming and your questions. It provides me a lot of insight into what the city is looking at and what you guys are valuing as important qualities of our city. Sorry, I'm very nervous. I'm very passionate about me being on city council. I'm excited. I have a lot of motivation behind me. I'm very personable, and I really just want to get out there and help our city. From the knowledge that I have on my committees and the knowledge of being a mother and a working mother within our city, I feel like I will do a great representation of helping our city grow, flourish, and succeed in Orange County. Thank you.
Nick?
Thank you. Well, again, thank you all for coming this evening. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. You know, I read something the other day, and the quote stuck with me because it said, if you read the newspaper, times have never been worse. But if you read the history books, things have never been better. And I think that's a really, regardless of what political preference or views you may have, has made some great strides over the past 4 years. We emerged from the pandemic. We've been able to grow our economy. We've been able to fix our roads and streets to an extent. And we've been able to address some of the important public safety and homelessness concerns that are facing our community. But these issues persist, and we need somebody who will put the politics aside and continue to work tirelessly to serve you. And you know, I'd be honored to have the opportunity to continue to do that over the next 4 years.
I just don't get paid for it. But for a great cause. I know I will bring a different perspective to this council and maybe even some levity. Can you imagine that? Some levity on this council? I will continue to work and be an ally to everyone, and hopefully can revitalize District 4 with more great restaurants like Tacos Los Cholos, and our home away from home, Salt and Pepper, where everybody knows your name, kind of like Cheers. And let us not forget the gem in District 4, Hunt's Library, that was saved by the residents of District 4 and all other district residents as well, advocating their hearts out along with help from Assemblywoman Sharon Quirk Silva and Senator Josh Newman. I'm so proud to say that they have both also endorsed my candidacy.
Kitty?
What?
Or at the end of the
Oh,
minute.
sorry.
Okay. Jan?
Thank you for coming.
I moved here in 1970 with my husband Bill and 2 kids, identical twin boys who were 3 years old at the time, and those boys are now 57. One of them's retired 2 years from being an Orange County Deputy District Attorney, and the other one's a public defender, and there's a fair share of judges that would like to see them on the same case. But anyway, Fullerton has been good to us. Bill and I and both my kids are graduates of Cal State Fullerton, and the whole educational history of my kids, from Future Farmers of America at Fullerton High School to Ladera Vista to Rolling Hills. Fullerton has been good to us, and that's why I love it so much, and that's why I spend so much time here. My business was here. I was a real estate broker here for 20 years before I even became an attorney. Anyway, I would be very honored to have your vote so that I can continue the work. Thank you.
Linda?
I have to say, I love the seat. The seat's pretty much filled. Not totally, but got a good turnout. People are interested in what's going on in your city. And to love your city is to make sure that you're involved. And then there's so many different charity groups and things like that it's wonderful. And I've gotten to learn so much about different things that I would never have known about growing up in Fullerton. I was brought here from LA when I was 3. And I dare to say maybe I'm even here longer than Kitty. But I went to Pacific Drive, Nicholas Junior High, and Sunny Hills High School. I could have gone to Boyd Park High School. In those days, you had a choice because I was right on Brookhurst. So I've been in the district before it was a district. We're still in the district, obviously, but I was raised here. Wonderful memories of growing up in Fullerton. I want to bring those memories back to you so you can experience what I had in the best times of my life in Fullerton.
Okay, so if you vote for me, I can almost guarantee at one time or another, I'm gonna piss you off. Because I'm gonna go based on what are the facts, what are the evidence, and what's the options available. I'm gonna pick what I think is the best for the people in the city of Fullerton. I'm not gonna do it based on what some donor wants me to do. I'm not gonna do it based on what, some lobbying group wants me to do. I'm gonna take those facts and put them together and decide what makes sense for the people of Fullerton. And again, I would like to be that aggressive force for good in Fullerton, and I'm sure I'm not gonna make everyone happy, and that's not my job here. My job is to do what I think is best for the city, and that's what I'll do if you put me in office. Thank you.
On behalf of the League of Women Voters.
Red.
Fred, I'm so sorry. Thank you all for reminding me.
This is
I did look at my notes wrong.
this is the burden of batting cleanup. I want to thank each and every one of you this evening, taking time out of your day, when you could certainly do other things to come and hear what your municipal government or the candidates therein have to say about our city. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for all that they do. Remarkable organization. I am bullish on Fullerton. I advocate and advertise it everywhere I go. I'm so proud to be a resident here, that I've raised 5 children here and continue to do so. And I call Fullerton home for almost 40 years. But there is a cost to this job. You have to sacrifice income. So for richer or poorer, there's a cost to this job. You have to sacrifice your health, and I have personal experience in this. Sometimes there's threats to your life, but in sickness and in health. I am proud to pay that cost. It's been the honor of my life to serve. I hope I can do it for 4 more years, and certainly appreciate all of you for being here again at the League of Women Voters. Thank you. Good night.
So again, on behalf of the League of Women Voters of North Orange County, I certainly want to thank all of our candidates for running and for participating in the forum, and now we can applaud them. Please note that tonight's event will be